Okay, thank you very much, Rafiq. Just before talking about the capacity, I think we have to mention some very important thing. I think Takaful was a response to a real need, and I'm sure maybe the real need is not visible to all. But now we have seen, at least after the Arab Spring in some countries like Tunisia, Morocco, we have seen now a huge demand for Takaful, for Sharia compliant product. And this is a matter of fact. How much is the percentage of the population willing really to go to the Takaful? This is another story. But anyway, the question should be, is Takaful a window dressing? It was your question. Is it a genuine or a different concept? In my opinion, I think it's a different concept. We have to make it really different, and we have differentiation is the key. And is it a good investment opportunity? Okay. For the time being, there is a question mark about the return on investment, especially for Takaful. But this is something which is normal. When you start an industry, you cannot expect to have the same return on equity as the existing companies. But there is something I like always, to compare Takaful to the organic food, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, the organic food was an exotic phenomenon. And few people were interested by the organic food. If you go to Dubai Mall on the third Saturday each month, you will see a crowd in the organic, how do you call this, supermarket, etc., because there is a real demand. I suppose that for Takaful, we'll have the same. It started 33 years ago, but we have seen the second wave of Takaful in the years 2000. But definitely, I think, like the organic food, the differentiation is the key for Takaful. We are not yet different as we would like, to be, but things are coming. Things are not perfect. And I think we have, in my different meetings or different conferences, etc., we have seen that there is a real awareness about, let's say, the lack of understanding, the lack of expertise, etc., etc. But the more important thing is the mindset. I think for the time being, and all of us, we are coming from a conventional background, and we are doing progressively, let's say, our evolution or our revolution. Now, coming back to your question about the capacity. We used to hear in different conferences until 2007, 2008, oh, there is not enough capacity, etc., etc. I think now we have something like 12, 13 Retakaful operator, starting from the AA companies like Munich, Swiss Re, like Hanover, etc., to the BBB. And for the time being, I think all, except maybe one, all Retakaful operators are rated. We did a study in Takaful 3-4 years ago on the treaty, based on the existing treaty, because we are in almost all the Takaful operators, and we discovered something which is very simple. The existing Retakaful capacity can cover all the treaty needs. But here I have to mention something. Maybe Abdulrazaq may disagree with me. Maybe he will say that some Takaful are not enough supportive, and I understand, the frustration or the question, etc. But we have to understand something very important. We are the custodian, and we have the duty to protect our policyholder fund, i.e., if, let's say, for example, a company X, a company Takaful X, doesn't have a good track record over the past 3, 4, 5 years, I think my duty as a custodian of this Takaful fund is not to accept this business, because I'm bringing something which is a potential making losses policy or treaty or program to a pool. And I'm not authorized from a Sharia perspective, from a Sharia point of view, to bring such lousy business to the pool. This is something which, when I was talking about the Takaful mindset, if you don't have such a reflex, if you don't have, this thinking, you cannot just act, I'm at Takaful, I have to support at any cost. No, this is not the case. We have to be technically sound, and we have to be technically profitable. Now, I'm not saying that Takaful or the existing Takaful can cover all the risk. We have some lines of business like the specialty lines, we have the aviation, we have the energy. I think we will always need the international market, because when you have $1 billion risk, I don't think that the existing Takaful can cover risk. When you have, let's say, airline like Emirates, I don't think that the Takaful, even after 50 years, will not be able. This is why we are part of the insurance industry. I don't like, to see or to tell that we are completely different. No, technically speaking, we are part of the insurance industry, but we have a different concept. We have a different business model. And to answer your question, yes, we can provide a lot of capacity. We can cover the existing treaty capacity. On the facultative, depending on the line of business, we will need international market, definitely.
Support. Thank you very much, Chakib. Thank you very much for enlightening us that the capacity exists, and the Retakaful companies have to be as prudent and as competitive as the conventional players. So it's great that the Takaful companies have enough Retakaful capacity available. And that is one of the answers if we are asked that if you're properly backed by Sharia compliant and Retakaful solutions, indeed that is the case. May I request Mr. Bhatty to give your views on the topic with a specific reference to the surplus distribution, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I answer the surplus distribution question, I'd like to sort of just really give you my views on the topic itself. Are we thinking Takaful and acting conventional? Of course, there is a difference between the Takaful and conventional. That's why Takaful was actually brought into the whole realm. That is why now there's $12 billion of industry that we see. And that is why the market share of Takaful in the countries where it is being written is more than 10%, 15% and so on, except for Saudi Arabia, which is 100%. But I think why we are actually having the need to discuss this even is because the difference is there, but it is not being felt. We have Sharia compliant products, we have Sharia compliant companies, but are they really doing the compliance the way it is supposed to be done? Are we Sharia based or Sharia compliant? That's another topic, but I think what is being agreed by a Sharia scholar that this is how it should be done, is it being done that way? Does the customer actually understand, and for the customer to understand that it is Sharia compliant, it is a different, there is a difference. It's not just insurance, it's more than insurance. The person who's explaining that needs to understand that first, and therefore the people who are actually running the company need to understand that. So there has to be really an education process all the way through, as not just Sharia compliant, not just the text, but the context. That's very important, and I think that's where the industry is lacking right now. We come and talk amongst us, and perhaps at the board levels, that this is how Takaful is. It is Sharia compliant and all that. But what matters is the customer himself. I make a point, whenever I travel, going abroad in different countries, Kuala Lumpur to Karachi or wherever, I always tend to ask a simple question, the same question to everybody. And I think the answer really sort of comes back to me that we don't really understand what Takaful is all about. It is insurance, yes, we understand that, but what's the big deal? And therefore there is this duty, I think, amongst Sharia, amongst the operators of Takaful to actually tell, why it is different. That's where I think the problem is. It is a wonderful system. I think it's good for everybody. It is supposed to be, if it is Sharia compliant and we do it according to how it should be done, good for the community, because it's all about community. It's the group of people who want protection come to a place where other group of people who have money, they can actually set it up on compliant basis and make it happen for the community. The money that is generated has to be invested in the community in a very Sharia compliant manner, which is good for economy, good for environment, and all of that. So that's, I think, what's missing. Coming back to the surplus distribution, again, I think this is a myth that we are building wrong expectations amongst the customers that there is surplus. Surplus is a byproduct of the system. It is a cooperation. I don't like the word donation. They don't donate, they actually contribute to a fund for collective protection. And if there is surplus, then it can be distributed. But it's not an expectation. It's not a with-profit business. So that message has to go through. Okay, there's a difference between conventional and Takaful, and there's this surplus to be expected, but that's not an expectation as a guarantee. That's just a byproduct.
Thank you very much, Bhatty Sahab. It's great that you highlighted the social welfare aspect and the responsibility in investing the funds and managing the company. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Irshied to enlighten us on the regulatory framework and your own views as the legal consultants in the industry.
Well, thank you. I mean, there is definitely a huge role to be played by the regulatory bodies in terms of reformatting the current regulation to cater for Takaful industry and to make sure that Takaful operators, be it the Takaful or the Retakaful, in such a manner that are from corporate governance and prudential regulation transparent to both shareholders and various stakeholders, customers, and so on. So I yield back to what Ajmal was saying. I think if we wanted to put the role of being transparent and making sure that such message is being passed, is more of the regulator being involved in that regard. Having said that, I think in terms of the subject that we're discussing today, I believe that the outcome, I mean, it doesn't take a brainer, it's the same. You buy a product, you are protected, be it Takaful or conventional. You know, I had a risk, that risk, say it's fire insurance. Now I don't have that risk anymore, and I transfer that risk to a Takaful operator or a conventional operator. It's a different just angle, but the outcome from a customer viewpoint or from a cedent viewpoint, if they are buying a reinsurance cover to certain risk, be it in facultative or treaty, it's also the same from an outcome viewpoint. Now, what's different, as my colleague here says, Chakib started, is actually the methodology and the structure and the business model, the way it's structured in order to actually achieve that same similar outcome. We all have to agree that it is similar outcome. There is no difference. It is a risk transfer. And that's why there is that thin line and there is that confusion, in my view, in the mind of various people that saying, oh, Takaful, it's completely different. Well, it's not. If I buy a motor insurance, be it Takaful or conventional, I used to have a risk, now I don't, because of that piece of paper, be it in a Takaful or a conventional. The difference, obviously, it's one is compliant with Sharia and the other is not. Having said that, I think the biggest role from regulatory, and as the moderator want me to touch base on, if I want to pick the biggest probably aspect and obligation, is the regulator themselves. They need to impose, you know, in various ways,